I have been hiking in the Uintas for 12 years. I know that terrain the way most people know their own neighborhood. The ridgelines, the drainage patterns, the way the light hits the peaks at different hours. I have never gotten lost in those mountains. Not once in 12 years. In August 2021, I got lost within 2 miles of a government perimeter I had not known existed. I was 3 days into a solo trip when I picked up what I thought was a standard survey marker. A metal post driven into the ground with a small orange flag attached. I noted it and kept moving. Over the next hour, I picked up 2 more. 3 survey markers in a rough line heading northwest. I was not following them deliberately. I noticed afterward that I had been moving toward them. My compass started behaving strangely at approximately the point where I crossed what I later determined to be the perimeter line. Not dramatically, not spinning wildly the way compasses do in films. Just wrong. The needle was consistently off by what I estimated as 15 to 20 degrees from where it should have been pointing. He recalibrated. Still wrong. I moved to a different position. Still wrong. The needle was pointing in a direction that my 12 years of reading that terrain told me was not north. I trusted the terrain over the compass and kept moving. That was the mistake. I walked for what I estimated was 2 hours in the direction the terrain told me was correct. When I stopped and looked at where I was, I did not recognize any feature in front of me. Not the ridgelines, not the drainage, not the vegetation pattern. Nothing that should have been visible from where I thought I was. I was completely turned around in terrain I had hiked for 12 years. I sat down and I did not move for a long time. I forced myself to be still and I used the sun position, the one thing that cannot be affected by magnetic interference, to reorient. It took me the rest of the afternoon to work out where I was. I had traveled almost 4 miles in the wrong direction. When I got out and looked at topographic maps, I identified the survey markers. They were on the boundary of a federal land restriction that is not marked on standard hiking maps. The restricted zone covers approximately 12 square miles of the Uintas. There is no public information about what the restriction is for. I have been back to the Uintas since. I do not go near that boundary. Not because I was told not to, because the afternoon I spent sitting still trying to understand where I was in terrain I have known for 12 years is something I do not want to experience again, and because I still do not know why my compass was wrong. Tell me where in the world you are watching from right now. Drop it in the comments. I read and reply to every single one. We are pushing toward 100,000 subscribers before the end of this year. Hit subscribe if these accounts mean something to you. Does a compass consistently wrong by the same degree tell you something at that perimeter is generating a magnetic field? Or does 12 years of terrain knowledge also failing tell you whatever is inside that boundary affects more than just the needle? Drop your answer below. I am a trail runner. I have been running backcountry trails in Nevada for 6 years, and I am fast, and I am careful, and I know how to read terrain at pace. I wear a GPS watch. I carry a paper map on longer runs. I'm not someone who gets lost. On a Tuesday morning in June 2022, I lost approximately 1 hour of time on a run I have done 17 times. I run a specific loop in a remote Nevada section. I'm not going to be more specific than that for reasons that will become obvious. The loop takes me between 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 2 hours 50 minutes depending on conditions. I know every section of it. I have run it in heat, in wind, in the specific brutal Nevada morning light that makes distances hard to judge. On this particular morning, I set out at 6:30. My watch was running. The route felt normal. I was moving well. I finished the loop and stopped my watch. 3 hours, 52 minutes. I stood looking at my watch for a long time. 3 hours, 52 minutes is over an hour longer than this loop has ever taken me. I was not injured. I was not dehydrated beyond what a normal run produces. My pace data on the watch showed normal pace for the entire run. No section where I had slowed significantly. No gap in the GPS track. No point where the watch had paused or malfunctioned. But the run had taken over an hour longer than it should have. I went back through the GPS track on the watch. The track looked normal for most of the route. In one section, a stretch of approximately 800 meters that runs parallel to a fenced boundary I had never paid close attention to. The track showed my position moving normally, but the timestamps were wrong. The timestamps showed 12 minutes passing in that section. My pace data showed I covered it in approximately 4 minutes at my normal pace. 8 minutes unaccounted for in 800 meters of trail that runs alongside a government fence. I have run that section of trail 17 times. I have never looked at the fence closely. On the run after this one, I stopped and looked at it. Standard chain link, no signage. No indication of what is on the other side or who maintains it. I filed a report with my running club describing the time discrepancy as a potential GPS malfunction. That is the only explanation I have ever given anyone. It is not the explanation I believe. What do you think happens in 800 meters of trail that runs alongside a government fence that can account for 8 minutes of time that a GPS watch recorded, but a pace tracker cannot explain? Drop it below. The third account tonight comes from 2 male friends who were hiking in Idaho when one of them crossed a perimeter line to retrieve something he had dropped, and came back different. Not injured, not confused. Different. That is the third account tonight. I need to tell this account for my friend because he will not tell it himself. He has not discussed what happened in September 2020 with anyone except me, and I am only submitting this because I think it needs to be documented somewhere. We were hiking in a remote Idaho section on the second day of a 4-day trip. The terrain was open. High desert with scattered forest, the kind of landscape where you can see a long way in every direction. We had been moving well all morning. My friend Demi dropped his map case. It rolled down a short slope and came to rest against a metal post on the far side of what we had not identified as a boundary line. We had not seen any markers approaching it. The first marker we noticed was the post the map case was resting against. Demi went down to get it. He crossed the line, picked up the map case, and came back. He was on the other side for less than 30 seconds. When he came back up the slope, he looked normal. He handed me the map case. We kept walking. About 20 minutes later, I noticed he had stopped responding to things I was saying. Not dramatically, just the specific lag of someone who is somewhere else in their head. I asked him if he was all right. He said he was fine. His voice sounded normal. We camped that night without incident. He ate, he slept. The camp was quiet. In the morning, he was different. I do not have a clinical word for what I mean by different. He was present, he was functional. He answered questions and packed his gear. But something behind his eyes was not the same as it had been the day before. The specific quality of being looked at by someone who is fully there. That was gone. It came back. Gradually, over the following 2 days, it came back until by the time we reached the trailhead, he was himself again. He said he did not remember the 2 days in the middle clearly. Not that they were blank, just that they felt distant, like remembering something from a long time ago. He has never gone back to that section of Idaho. He does not talk about it. When I have raised it, he changes the subject in a way that tells me he does not want to examine it too closely. I think he is right not to. Whatever is on the other side of that line in Idaho, 30 seconds of exposure to its proximity was enough to do something to my friend that took 2 days to undo. The map case he retrieved is still in his pack. He has used it on every trip since. I have never mentioned that to him. Subscribe to Obscure Nights right now. Does 2 days to recover from 30 seconds of exposure tell you the effect was cumulative? Or does it coming back gradually tell you whatever it did to him was temporary and knew exactly how long to last? Drop your answer below. 3 accounts, 3 different restricted zones. 3 people whose navigation, time, and cognition were affected in ways that standard outdoor safety training does not prepare you for. There is a practical framework for approaching any unmarked government perimeter in backcountry terrain. The first thing to understand is that federal restricted zones exist in publicly accessible wilderness areas more often than most hikers know. They are not always marked. The restriction exists on federal land records, but those records are not always reflected on standard topographic or trail maps. If you pick up survey markers in a line in remote terrain, you are likely approaching a boundary of some kind. The correct response when you identify an unmarked perimeter is simple. Stop. Do not cross it. Mark your GPS position before you move away from it, not after. Because if the accounts in tonight's video have any common thread, it is that navigation becomes unreliable once you are close to or inside the boundary. Analog backup matters here more than anywhere else in backcountry travel. A compass can be affected by magnetic interference. A GPS can log data incorrectly near high interference zones. The sun position and star position cannot be interfered with. Know how to use them. And if you are with someone who crosses a restricted perimeter, even briefly, watch them. Not dramatically, just watch. If you have an encounter of your own and you want it told on this channel, our submission email is in the channel bio. We read every single one. To the male hiker who spent an afternoon using the sun to find himself in terrain he has known for 12 years. To the female trail runner who filed a GPS malfunction report because it was the only explanation she could give anyone. And to the friend who is telling this account because Demi will not. And because the map case is still in the pack and he has never mentioned it. Thank you for trusting Obscure Nights with these accounts. This is Obscure Nights, where the cases nobody talks about get told the way they actually happened. Good night.